Sir, good morning, sir. I'll be presenting this case of a 56-year-old female. This
कौन सा केस है, कौन सा पेशेंट है?
यार ये तो वो कर दो ना, ये सब लोग क्या कर रहे हैं जमा हुए डांस कर रही है करते हैं मेरी सब वो का वॉइस है
Is there?
नहीं टीवी तो है लेकिन यादव डॉक्टर का एक बार भी फोटो नहीं आया उसका.
हाँ, but he is there.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
sir, the history examination and the investigations have been provided to me, sir. So this is she is a 56-year-old female. She presented with the chief complaint
Go to
of
slide presentation mode. Go to slide presentation mode.
yes, sir, just a moment.
Yes, sir. थोड़ा रुक जाओ, हल्का को आने दो, फिर मैं डेट चेंज करके ही कर देता हूँ.
Yes, that is okay.
Sir, my patient is a 56-year-old female. She presented with the chief complaint of pain abdomen since 3 months. Patient was apparently all right 3 months ago when she started experiencing colicky pain in right lower abdomen, which was initially mild in intensity, localized, and aggravated 30 minutes after food intake and relieved with medications. The intensity and duration of the pain progressed over the last 3 months. There was a history of nausea and occasional episodes of non-bilious vomiting during episodes of pain. I would like to know the nature of the vomitus and whether she experienced any relief in the pain after vomiting. It was also associated with loss of appetite and unquantified unintentional weight loss over last 3
Siddharth,
months.
sorry to interrupt. Your slides are not moving. Go to the next slide. Yes, now. Carry on.
No, he should go on slide presentation mode. Why this is the PPT mode? You should go on presentation mode.
Good. Click on the slideshow at the bottom, na? Bottom right.
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm doing it. Just a moment.
See,
Siddharth,
now,
double click on that.
now, since this has become a norm, all of us have to know all this technology.
Double click it. Not here. Same icon, yes. Double click it, yes.
Sir, there was a patient gives history of loss of appetite and unquantified unintentional weight loss for the last 3 months. She gives history of loosening of clothes. It was associated with generalized weakness over the last 3 months, which has increased over the last 15 days. I would also like to know whether she had complaints of palpitation or dizziness. She does not give any history of any lump in the abdomen, any abdominal distension, visible peristalsis. I would like to know whether there is history of
Change your slide, please. Go to the next. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Siddharth, आप एक काम करिए please. Just first on your laptop, go to the slideshow. Slideshow on कर लीजिए. It will open in a new tab.
Yes, sir.
After you've done that, press two keys, Alt and Tab. When you press Alt and Tab, you'll be able to cycle between different applications open in your laptop. With that, go to the Zoom. और टैब दबा के आप देखेंगे अलग अलग एप्लीकेशंस के आइकॉन साइकिल हो सकते हैं. So you go to the Zoom in those applications. वहां से जाके when you try to share your screen, then you will have an option of all the applications currently open. उसमें आप जो slide show, because slide show sometimes open a new window, and that new window is not copied onto Zoom. Can you follow?
Yes, sir.
Try again. Go open a slideshow first using a PowerPoint. वो एक नई विंडो में खुल जाता है. Then press Alt and Tab. That allows you to cycle between different windows open inside your computer. Go to Zoom. Zoom पे जाने के बाद when you try to share your screen, you will be able to select the PowerPoint presentation window. Try again, please.
Sir, can it send my
You must stop.
sir,
अभी जो आपका स्क्रीन शेयर हो रहा है, it is your PowerPoint, जो normal PowerPoint है. The presentation sometimes in older PowerPoints opens in a new window. So when you are selecting, even with the slideshow आपके कंप्यूटर पे आता है, but Zoom is still copying your old PowerPoint वाला window. So stop screen sharing. Screen sharing stop कर दीजिए. Now on your PowerPoint, press the slideshow button. Once the presentation is open in the slideshow is open on your computer, press Alt and Tab to move between different windows open in your computer. Alt Tab दबा के आप Zoom वाली tab पे खुल जाइए. Then you share your screen, and from the share screen में कैसे कौन सा आपको window share करना है. आपके पास PowerPoint presentation का एक अलग होता है.
See, another simpler method is to just have one window open on your laptop. Then when you share screen, that will be the only window which will be shown. If you have multiple windows open, then it creates a problem. I think you can go on with that only if you are taking time. Just go to the PowerPoint as you were doing earlier. Just keep changing your slides. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't seem to be working, but we can see your side. That's okay. Carry on.
sir, I will start again, sir. So she's a 56-year-old female, sir.
No, that's okay. Carry on from here only.
Yes, sir.
You already-
Yes, sir. She presented with history of loss of appetite and unquantified unintentional weight loss over the last 3 months, with history of loosening of clothes. There is associated history of generalized weakness over the last 3 months, which has increased over the last 15 days. I would like to know whether there is history of palpitation and dizziness associated or not. Patient gives no history of any associated lump in the abdomen. There is no history of any abdominal distension or visible peristalsis. And I would like to know the history of bowel movement. There is no history of fever, evening rise of temperature, or night sweats. It is not associated with any history of jaundice, hematemesis, melena, or hematochezia. There is no history of pain in the loins or any burning maturation. There is no history of any features of metastasis in the form of seizures, jaundice, or bone pains. Patient gives history of urinary stress incontinence for past 18 years following hysterectomy done outside. Patient is otherwise tolerating diet orally and passing flatus and stool daily. In the past, patient does not give any.
The slides again are not moving. Go on to the next. Yes, now we can see the slideshow. Yeah, carry on. You are on the past history. Yes.
Yes, sir. Patient otherwise, there is no history of similar episodes in the past. There are no other comorbidities. There is no history of tuberculosis in the past. Patient has underwent abdominal hysterectomy that was 18 years ago. Family history was not contributory. In the medical history, she took some oral medications for pain control for the past 3 months and gives no drug allergy in any form. Patient denies any history of substance abuse and her sleep habits are normal. Sir, on summarizing history, my patient is a 56-year-old female without any comorbidities with a history of hysterectomy done 18 years back now and has now presented with complaints of intermittent episodes of colicky pain abdomen in right lower abdomen, which is increasing in intensity over past 3 months with loss of appetite and weight loss with intermittent episodes of non-bilious vomitings. It is not she does not give any history. There is which is suggestive of obstipation or tuberculosis.
Dr. Yadav, Dr. Das.
So, TD Yadav, what is your name? Siddharth.
Yes,
Siddharth.
sir. Yes, sir.
So, why did you say in the history that there is no history suggestion of metastasis?
Sir, actually, this history was provided to me, sir, and at this stage, sir, I would like to keep.
What is your interpretation of the history of metastasis? There is no history of metastasis.
Sir, at this stage, sir, I would like to keep both malignant and benign conditions in picture, sir. The patient is having intermittent episodes of
That we have
intestinal
listened.
obstruction.
That
Yes,
we have listened that you told that there is. So you have decided that this is a patient of malignancy and you want to know the metastasis history. What is specific you want to know? History of metastasis.
no, sir. I have actually ruled out symptoms suggestive of both benign and malignant conditions in this patient, sir. In benign conditions, I have ruled out history of fever, night sweats, and with tuberculosis in my mind. And I have also ruled out symptoms suggestive of malignancy in this patient.
You mean to say that if a patient comes to you, she doesn't have fever and night sweats. You rule out abdominal tuberculosis in a abdominal pain condition.
No, sir. I will not.
So you are saying that I have tried to rule it out.
Pancreatitis published.
Pancreatitis okay. CD what?
Sir, since at history states, sir, we cannot be really sure whether we are dealing with a benign or a malignant etiology, sir. So even with these symptoms, I cannot be 100% sure that abdominal pox has been ruled out.
Can others keep their microphone on silent mode because lots of disturbance is coming. Second important point in the family history, you are saying that there is no family history suggestive. What type of family history you want to ask in this patient?
Sir, if we are...
What is your concern about asking family history?
Sir, there are a few benign and malignant conditions which can have...
just tell me the family history, what you want to. We don't want theory. Few benign conditions, few malignant, there are multiple. What do you specific want to know?
Sir, if there is history of abdominal pox in any of the other family members, or if there are if there is any history of malignancy in any of the family members, sir.
What type of malignancy? Head malignancy, neck malignancy?
Colorectal malignancies.
So be specific that you want to know. Why you want to know that?
Sir, because colorectal malignancy have got a familial predisposition also, sir.
Okay. You said that there is no history of dizziness and weakness. There is a history of no history of dizziness. So, do you think that asking about history of stool color is important in this patient?
Yes, sir, it is important. Yes, sir, it is important, sir.
So you did
But she
not
has
ask-
been, yes, she has been passing normal colored stools, sir. I had mentioned it in the history, sir.
Mhm.
Dr. Das,
Sir, namaskar, sir.
good morning.
Morning. So, see, from the history, can you tell me what is happening in this patient?
Sir, sir, this patient has been experiencing
What
recurrent
is
episodes
happening
of.
means I mean to ask, what is pathologically inside what is happening? Is there something infection, inflammation? What is happening inside?
Sir, there is a possibly a mechanical obstruction, sir.
So, there is possibility of a mechanical obstruction. Complete, incomplete.
Incomplete, sir.
Where is the obstruction?
Sir, it could be a small bowel or
It's
a large bowel.
difficult to jump
Difficult.
to a pathological diagnosis like TB or malignancy from the history. You have
Yes.
to go from what is happening in this patient, then gradually, slowly and steadily move towards the diagnosis, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, where is the obstruction? Do you think you say the patient is having intermittent colicky pain? Distension is there?
No, sir.
No distension. During the time, during the pain, does the patient pass motion or goes into a semi or total obstructive mode?
Sir, she has never gone into a total obstruction during her entire
You say that
duration of
she is having a small bowel obstruction or a large bowel obstruction.
Sir, most likely a large bowel obstruction, but then again, it could be a small bowel obstruction also.
So why the
But
patient is having non-bilious vomiting? What is the type of vomiting in a small bowel versus a large bowel?
Sir, in a
Small
small
bowel
bowel,
versus distal.
sir, small bowel proximal obstruction will be more of a, it will contain gastric content in the vomitus, sir.
Small bowel will have gastric content.
The proximal small bowel will have features
So
suggestive of
how
gastric
do I go about it is, so there is a basic difference between a proximal obstruction and a distal obstruction. It's the sequence of pain, distension and vomiting, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So, and then you go to the nature of the vomiting. From this, what appears, there is a discrepancy in your history. The features are suggestive of possibly a mid or a little bit terminal part of the small bowel obstruction because of colicky pain, and there is no distension, and the patient occasionally has vomiting. But
Yes.
the non-bilious vomiting is not fitting into the bill.
Yes.
That is the best thing we are getting from the history, and weight loss, etc., may lead to chronic nutritional deficiency or a associated infection like tuberculosis or a malignancy, isn't it?
Yes.
Then you can move over to examination if somebody else has asked to ask.
So Siddharth and students, few points. You all have to understand that the classical history of subacute intestinal obstruction in patients with tuberculosis is of intermittent episodes of colicky abdominal pain, which are usually in the central abdomen. They are associated with abdominal distension. There may be a feeling of fullness. Patient may have noticed visible loops and visible peristalsis, which they often described as a ball of wind or a gola formation in the abdomen, which is moving from one side to the other. Then they may have vomiting. Vomiting may relieve the pain to some extent. During the episode of pain, they may not be passing flatus or stool for some time, but then most of these episodes either get relieved spontaneously or the patient knows that he or she has to reduce the oral intake to nothing or to only liquid. So this is the classical history of subacute intestinal obstruction, which you should try to elicit whenever you suspect abdominal tuberculosis. The second is that since the commonest differential diagnosis, especially of an ileocecal tuberculosis, later as we go on in this case, is a malignancy, you have to understand that the predominant clinical picture in tuberculosis is of obstruction, whereas the predominant clinical picture of malignancy is bleeding, although there will be an overlap. Now, since bleeding is important, in your negative history, if I remember correctly, you mentioned jaundice first and then you said that there is no history of melena or hematochezia. No, in the negative history, the more important, more relevant negative history should come first and the routine things come later. So that is important. The point which Dr. T.D. Yadav was trying to tell you that at this stage, you should not be making statements like no history of tuberculosis, no history of metastasis. You should say specifically what you asked for. So either you can say no history of symptoms suggestive of tuberculosis or no history of symptoms suggestive of a metastasis, or you specifically say what exactly you are asking. Because tuberculosis is a multi-system disease. Which system are you referring to when you say no history of tuberculosis? Pulmonary, meningeal, genitourinary, or what? Although she has had a hysterectomy 18 years ago, but I would prefer if you had told us what was her menstrual history before she had the hysterectomy, whether that would indicate that she had a genital tract involvement at that time. Then in your summary, you haven't mentioned stress incontinence, which is a very important, I mean, and we, of course, you have been provided a history, but for patient, that was an important symptom. And that becomes important because suppose for her abdominal condition, you are wanting to operate upon her, you would like to know whether the stress incontinence also needs a surgical intervention, which then can be done at the same time. So you should not forget the unrelated problems of the patient. And similarly, in the history, no history of GI bleed should have, in the summary, no history of GI bleed should have been included. Summary includes all positive and important negative points also. So
Also, Siddharth, see, in your history, you mentioned about tuberculosis many times, and it seems your first diagnosis was going towards tuberculosis. And you should remember that worldwide, among all the tuberculosis patients, only 1 to 3% patients present with abdominal tuberculosis, and out of that, 30% can have ileocecal tuberculosis in generalized population. And it increases significantly in immunocompromised patients. So it's as rare as that. Okay.
Yeah, please carry on.
Sir,
Based on Dr. Siddharth, based on whatever you have presented, since this format we are discussing about what is your first differential diagnosis? What is your differential diagnosis? You have made some diagnosis based on
Yes.
the history.
yes, sir, I have, sir.
What is your first impression? Why a patient is suffering from?
Sir, my first differential diagnosis would be sir, I would like to keep
So as sir is telling, it's a good habit to add your slide. This slide is provided, but you can add your points in different colors. So you can say what is your differential diagnosis, first diagnosis. These are the points in favor of this diagnosis. These are the points which are not. Same way, second diagnosis. These are the points which are in favor, and these are the points which are in not. And always your first diagnosis should have more points in favor than the points which are not fitting into the diagnosis. So this is the way, then only you can think. If I ask and you start making a diagnosis, you will make a diagnosis. Then if I ask you, then what are the points in favor? You will start thinking. Rather than if you are prepared, you will immediately tell you. You
Yes.
will tell us.
You should be ready with the answers to these questions. These questions
Yes.
will always be asked. So
Yes.
I think future presentations by students, you must always insert a slide on your own here at this stage after the history, that what is your impression, what is your diagnosis, what is your differential diagnosis. In some cases, you may not be able to make a diagnosis, but some impression has to be made. So you must
Yes, sir.
insert a slide here, and then you must insert a slide at the end of examination that what is your diagnosis. So if I were you, I would say I think this patient is having increasing intestinal obstruction, mechanical intestinal obstruction, which probably now that point that non-bilious vomiting doesn't fit in, because non-bilious vomiting means a gastric outlet obstruction, but that doesn't fit in with the picture here. And we know in clinical medicine many a time there are some symptoms which we cannot explain, but you should say that I expected bilious or vomiting or feculent vomiting in this case, but she's saying it is non-bilious. So you should say that I think she's having intestinal obstruction. There is no history of GI bleed, and she has some anorexia and weight loss. So my first diagnosis, if you think so, is abdominal tuberculosis, which is either stricturing type or hypertrophic type, which usually causes obstruction. But considering her age and considering the anorexia and weight loss, I would like to keep the possibility of malignancy in mind. That is how you should interpret.
Sir.
So when this question is asked, you should not start thinking at that stage. You should have thought the answer before you started your.
I think he is thinking about the first, second, or third. Just leave behind. Do you have
Yes,
any
sir.
diagnosis in your mind?
Sir,
another
was
thing.
Yes.
And another thing, when you summarize your, when you take your history, you should think of all the symptoms, all the diseases that cause intestinal obstruction. If you don't do that, you will miss important thing like polyps. Polyps can cause intussusception and obstruction. Meckel's diverticulum can cause intussusception and obstruction. So you need to consider in your mind what are all the diseases that can present like this to me. But these won't fit in with weight loss. But
Yes, sir.
adhesive intestinal obstruction, we can still fit in with weight loss. She has had 18 years ago, she's had an abdominal hysterectomy. So it's very possible that this is intestinal obstruction due to adhesions.
Yes, sir.
This that 11 years have passed doesn't make it unlikely.
Yes. Sir, if I am to prioritize, sir, my first diagnosis in this case would be a malignancy, sir. Colonic malignancy.
Discuss the differential
Yes.
diagnosis. Let's move on. Yes.
Okay. Sir, general physical examination, sir, she is conscious and coherent, moderately built and nourished, with a ECOG performance score of 1, height of 146 centimeter, weight of 52 kilograms, BMI of 24.6 kilogram per meter square. Pulse is 86 per minute, sir. BP is normal, temperature is 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. She has no pallor, icterus clubbing cyanosis, generalized lymphadenopathy or left supraclavicular lymphadenopathy, no pedal edema, sir. In systemic examination, on abdominal examination inspection, patient abdomen is normal in shape, umbilicus is central and inverted. There is a lower midline scar of previous surgery seen. There are no dilated veins or sinuses, no visible lump or fullness, no visible pulsations or visible peristalsis is seen. On palpation, all the inspectory findings are confirmed, sir. There is no local rise of temperature. There is a mild tenderness in the right iliac fossa. There is a intra-abdominal mass palpable of size 10 into 8 centimeter in the right iliac fossa. Swelling is oval, firm in consistency, smooth surface, and all borders are well filled. The swelling is not moving with respiration and is moving only in the lateral to medial direction. There is no palpable swelling or tenderness in the right loin, no ascites, liver is not palpable. Sir, the hernial sites were not actually mentioned, but I would also like to know the genitalia and the hernial sites. On percussion, there was a dull note over the swelling and tympanic node heard all over the swelling, and the liver span was 12 centimeters. Normal ball sounds were heard, and they were not increased. On PR examination was essentially normal. No growth was palpable rectally. Fecal staining on the examining finger was present, and it was a normal colored stool. Rest of the systemic examination, CVS, pulmonary and CNS examinations were essentially normal, sir. Sir, summarizing the history and clinical examination, sir, I have already summarized the history. salient features of examination was that there was a well-defined firm swelling of 10 into 8 centimeter intra-abdominal swelling, which involving right iliac fossa, which was mobile in transverse directions.
So what do you think this lump is?
Sir, it could be a colonic mass, sir.
What else?
It could be a sir.
Why do you say colonic? Why not small bowel?
Sir, since the location of the tumor is in the right iliac fossa, so there is a possibility that even the terminal ileal mass could also, or any mass involving the IC region or cecum or ascending colon could.
How do you know it is a
possibly.
tumor? You use the word tumor.
Sir, no, sir. It's a lump arising from.
Yeah, so don't use these terms as interchangeable. No? Lump, swelling, and tumor are three different terms. What you palpate is a lump.
Yes.
You can have swelling even in inflammation, but there is no lump. Tumor
Yes.
is a tumor. So
Yes,
they are not synonyms. So when we are describing the findings, we should use the word lump.
Yes, sir.
So just because it is in the right iliac fossa, does it make it colonic?
No,
Small
sir.
bowel,
No, sir.
can-
No, sir. It does not make it a colonic. It could be a distal ileal, cecal, or
could be
ascending
anything.
colonic.
So
Yes.
say it's a bowel lump arising from the bowel.
Yes.
Why is this not an appendicular lump?
Sir, because of because of the movement of the lump, which is only in the mediolateral direction. So,
So taking the whole picture, clinical picture into account, because
Well,
the
she has
complex
a-
right iliac fossa lump is an appendicular lump, isn't
yes, sir,
it?
she has luminal symptoms. Sir. So I did not keep appendicular.
So your answer should be there is no history to suggest an episode of acute appendicitis a few weeks ago, following which a lump usually forms. And second, this patient has intestinal obstruction. Appendicular lumps usually do not cause intestinal obstruction. So that is why you should say that it is not an appendicular lump. Some
Yes.
of these questions are asked just to know how you explain some symptoms or clinical findings.
Yes.
So now after examination, what is your diagnosis?
Sir, I would like to consider um, um, a malignancy arising from distal ileum, cecum, or ascending colon.
Malignancy arising from distal ileum. How many distal ileal tumors have you seen? Is that a common site of malignancy?
No, sir, it is not. Sir.
Not only
Sir, it
that,
could be.
Tuberculosis is an ileocecal disease.
Yes, sir.
Malignancy is a cecal or colonic disease. So if you are saying malignancy, you should say malignancy from the right colon. If you are saying tuberculosis, then you should say it is ileocecal.
Yes, sir.
Ileal malignancy will not have a patient who is on examination doesn't have any sign of intestinal obstruction. Though there is, you are only talked about pain and vomiting. Pain can be of different reasons, and vomiting may be associated with the pain at that particular time.
Yes.
What is
Have you
important?
considered inflammatory bowel disease?
Sir, no, sir, I did not consider it because diarrhea is a very prominent feature, sir, of inflammatory bowel disease. So, although I am not able to, I will not be able to rule it out completely, but
Your answer should, don't say I did not consider, say I don't think this is inflammatory bowel disease, because in inflammatory bowel disease, the predominant symptom has to be diarrhea followed by bleeding, and this patient does not have a history of diarrhea or bleeding. So that is why I don't think this is inflammatory bowel disease.
yes.
Which inflammatory bowel disease will produce this clinical picture?
So Crohn's disease would be.
So why should there be a lump palpable in Crohn's disease?
Sir, if it is a fistulizing disease involving adjacent viscera, it could form a lump.
Why should fistula give rise to a lump? What does give rise to a lump?
Sir, adherence of adjacent
so-
bowel loops.
Different loops or different organs getting adherent to each other, they can form a lump. Plus, if there is a localized perforation, but then the clinical picture will be different. Then the patient will have features of sepsis. The lump will not be mobile as you have described, and it will be tender. So that is how you should say that you don't think this is a inflammatory bowel disease. Okay, you said your first diagnosis is malignancy. Second,
Second is could be, sir, ileocecal cox. And
what would be difference in the characteristics of the lump in ileocecal tuberculosis vis-a-vis the lump you have described in a malignancy? What is the difference between the two lumps?
sir, the malignant lump will be more well defined, sir. Margins will be well defined as compared to a ileocecal cox. Secondly, the mobility in a malignant could be, if it is localized to the organ itself, it will be more mobile as compared to a ileocecal cox, sir.
That is only two differential diagnosis. One is, I agree that well-defined lump would be malignant in favor of malignancy. Any difference in the consistency? Any difference in the
Sir, a malignant
Type of the
lesion
lump.
would be, sir, a malignant lesion will be more firm to hard in consistency as compared to a ileocecal cox, sir. And
what about size of the lump? What about abdominal? This thing proximal to the lump?
sir, I'm not sure about the size of the lump, which will be a bigger. I guess malignancy should be bigger than
So
ileocecal.
what is the characteristic of ileocecal tuberculosis?
Sir, ileocecal tuberculosis is more of a ulcerative kind of a lesion, sir. On the right side.
Ulcerated lesion produces lump. A lump would
how
be
can
the
you talk of ulceration on clinical examination? We are discussing clinical examination. We are not discussing endoscopy or pathology. So where does ulceration come in? Say inflammatory. If you say inflammatory, I will accept.
Yes,
But
sir.
you can't talk of ulceration on clinical examination.
Right, sir.
Also, have you considered intersusception as a cause for the lump? What is dancing sign?
Sir, there is intermittent there is intermittent obstruction intersusception with the patient with the finding of a lump palpable when the patient is experiencing colicky pain abdomen, sir.
That's
And-
all, or will there be
and-
other things like bleeding, current jelly stools?
Yes, sir. There'll be yes, sir. There'll be bleeding and current jelly stools, sir.
Yeah.
And,
What is current jelly stools?
sir? It is a slight pinkish to reddish kind of stool, sir, with mucoid consistency, sir.
mucoid
Okay.
consistency. What is mucoid consistency? It's a very
Mucoid nature, sir. Mucoid nature. Sir.
I think it's very important to use appropriate terminology which are mentioned in your clinical methodology.
Right.
It gives a very poor impression if you go on using the terms which are not described in the test book.
Right.
Yeah, so let's move on. This patient comes to you in the OPD. What will you do?
Sir, I would like to request for 2 sets of investigations, sir. The first set of investigation would be to assess the general physical condition of the patient and the nutritional status of the patient. And the second set of examinations of investigations would be to localize the site of obstruction and to ascertain the nature of the disease which the patient has, sir.
So which investigation will you do first to arrive at a diagnosis?
So to arrive at the diagnosis, I would like to ask for to request for chest X-ray and abdominal X-ray, sir. Since it's
How will chest X-ray give you the diagnosis in this case?
Sir, since I'm considering abdominal COX and chest X-ray is a part of routine investigation workup of all the patients.
My question was, what investigation will you do to arrive at a diagnosis? And you started with a chest X-ray. Now I want to know, how will chest X-ray give you the diagnosis?
So it will not give me the diagnosis. It will only support my diagnosis, sir. So for
Answer again. What investigation would
You
you
have not
do?
made your diagnosis yet.
yes, sir.
What investigation would you do as the first investigation to arrive at a diagnosis in this case?
Sir, ultrasound of
How will ultrasound give you a diagnosis?
sir, ultrasound will give me the organ of origin, sir. And
You don't know from clinical examination, do you have any doubt what is the organ of origin?
sir, it could either be since we are
Okay,
not
suppose
sure whether
ultrasound
it's a-
tells you it is a bowel lump, does it give you a diagnosis? That we already know. Most probably this is a bowel lump because there is a lump palpable and she has obstruction.
So it will give me other supportive evidence also, like
Like?
it will give like any lymph nodal enlargement.
So
Any
does presence of lymph nodes on ultrasound give you a diagnosis?
no, sir, it does not, sir.
Next. What else
Then-
will ultrasound show?
So it will show any presence of ascites, and
Will it give you the diagnosis?
no, sir, it will not, sir.
It will not. What next on ultrasound?
Sir,
So what I'm trying to tell you, you may do an ultrasound, but the only thing ultrasound will tell you that yes, there is a lump which you already know. It will confirm that it is arising from bowel. It will tell you whether there are any enlarged lymph nodes. It will tell you whether there is an ascites. The only thing which may give you a diagnosis on ultrasound is if you see any space occupying lesions in the liver, which will definitely tell you that most probably this is malignancy with metastasis. Otherwise, the local and regional findings on ultrasound cannot and will not differentiate between the two differential diagnoses which you are considering.
yes, sir.
So there is no harm in saying, see, by and large, in HPB diseases, ultrasound is the first investigation. In bowel, GI pathology, usually ultrasound is not the first investigation, but if you do it, nobody will object because it is such a simple investigation, but you should be able to justify. The reasons you are giving are not correct because ultrasound will not differentiate between tuberculosis and malignancy.
Right, sir.
Did we have an ultrasound? Sorry, yes.
One more very important point in your discussion differential, you did not even think about. This patient is for 3 months, she is having problem, still she is very well preserved. And you talked about weight loss or some loss of appetite, but you have shown that BMI of a female is 24.
Yes, sir.
So, and there is no in the general physical examination any signs and symptoms suggestive of the nutritional impairment, though you have not seen also many. So in this type of patient and in the history, there is some suggestion of blood loss. So we are talking more about obstruction, but there is suggestion of the blood loss because of the dizziness and one more feature I just forgot.
Palpitations.
So,
Yes.
palpitation. So this is two important points. And in a patient of this type of patient where this is a well-defined firm lump in the cecum and having no sign and symptom of much physical activity impairment, you should also consider a diagnosis of GIST also, though it would be lower on the side of, rather than thinking about tuberculosis and obstruction. There is on clinical examination, there is no obstruction at all. So there would be a lump which is probably more towards the benign disease, may not be benign lump at all, but GIST is one of the important differential which can be discussed whether points are favor, whether points are not in favor.
Yes, sir.
So this is very important to understand that in this patient, GIST also could be one of the differential diagnosis rather than only thinking about two things.
Okay, sir.
Let's quickly review the investigation, and this is the situation which you should try to avoid in the exam. We are almost over and we haven't even reached the investigation review. So your presentation, clinical presentation should be such that you spend minimum time on history and examination. There should not be any questions and counter questions. Let's review the investigations quickly.
Sir, this is the ultrasound abdomen, sir. done on 15th of December, but overall impression is only gaseous abdomen, sir. They could not get any information out of it, sir, because of the. Sir, should I go to the next investigation,
Yes,
sir,
yes,
which was
sir.
done? Sir, this was the CCT whole abdomen done on 23rd of October, which shows a heterogeneously enhancing asymmetrical circumferential wall thickening involving cecum, ascending colon, and IC junction. Maximum thickness measuring 27 mm, growth involving adjacent lateral conal.
So you have seen the CT report. What is your impression?
Sir, even from this CT report, sir, we are not very sure whether it's a malignancy or not, because there is some amount of so the mid and distal IL loops, they appear to be plumped in the right iliac fossa and pelvis, and there is a thin membrane overlying them along the right side. Otherwise, there is going by this final impression, they have kept both the things idiopsychic.
So let me go back to my original question. When you have a lump palpable in the right iliac fossa, which investigation will give you the diagnosis?
Sir, colonoscopy, sir.
Yeah, so that's what I was hinting at. You may, after colonoscopy, you may do a CT scan, but imaging probably will not give you the diagnosis. What gives you diagnosis in GI tract lesions is usually endoscopy and biopsy. So by and large, the first investigation in GI lesions is endoscopy, with or without biopsy. And by and large, the first investigation is HPB diseases is ultrasound followed by CT. Now in GI also, after an endoscopy, in most cases, you will still do CT scan, but CT usually would not give you the diagnosis, except in upper GI, where yes, CT will give you the diagnosis.
Sir, if I am asked this question and I straight away say colonoscopy as my first investigation, will I not be questioned that I should be first talking
See,
about basic
as I
investigation?
say again and again, at this level of examination, no two examiners will agree on any one statement, but what you say, you should be able to justify. So if I were you, I would say that I know that there is a lump which is most probably arising from the bowel. Now what I'm interested in knowing is that what is the etiology, and that will be best done by colonoscopy and biopsy. And based on the biopsy report, I will do further investigations.
Right. Sir, this was the.
So just before the colonoscopy, let me point highlight one point, that if you combine clinical examination, history, and radiology, CT scan, though radiology is more in favor, I would still feel that this is a patient with having malignancy.
Yes.
So that is.
Sir, colonoscopy done on 9th of December shows a large nodular proliferative circumferential growth causing significant luminal narrowing in the ascending colon. The scope could not be traversed beyond, and multiple biopsies were taken, sir.
What is your impression of this colonoscopy finding?
Sir, I think malignancy would be more appropriate, sir.
Why do you say so?
Since it's a large nodular proliferative, because of the nature of the growth, sir. Nodular proliferative.
So what finding would you expect to see on colonoscopy in tuberculosis?
So tuberculosis will be it will give a deformed cecum and ascending colon morphology, sir. It will be the cecum will be the cecum and ascending colon. The cecum is generally pulled up, sir. Therefore, it will be more of a.
Yeah, so you still can see nodules and ulcerations, but usually you do not see a circumferential growth, because as we discussed, tuberculosis is an ileocecal pathology. It involves only one part of the circumference of the cecum, whereas malignancy is a primarily colonic pathology. So it may involve the circumference. And then this proliferative growth is usually not seen, although at the same time, at the end of your answer, you should say that in many cases, in some cases, even at endoscopy, it will be very difficult to differentiate between tuberculosis and malignancy. But this endoscopic picture, the description is more in favor of malignancy rather than tuberculosis.
Sir, this was the biopsy report, sir. They could not see any dysplasia or malignancy.
So what will you do? just to finish, what will you do with all these investigations? What will be your advice?
Sir, before I plan anything, sir, I would like to ask for a serum CESS because although it's not a diagnostic of malignancy, but it will give me a.
Will it change your management?
No, sir, it will not change my management.
Okay, so we have done CA, it was 6.
Sir, since it is almost normal, sir.
Yeah, everything
I
else is
would-
normal. She's
I would-
otherwise fit.
Yes, sir. I would still consider malignancy as my first diagnosis and advise surgery to the patient, sir.
Yeah, so your answer should be my working diagnosis in spite of biopsy being negative is a malignancy. I cannot rule it out, so I will treat her as malignancy of the colon.
Of the ascending colon.
So
Yes.
what will you do?
Sir, I will plan for sir, intraoperatively, I will assess the lesion, sir. And
Based on whatever information you have, what will you do? What is your
Sir.
plan? What will you write in the intended operation?
sir, exploratory laparotomy with right hemicolectomy, sir.
What is the extent of the lesion on colonoscopy? Go back to the colonoscopy and the CT. Where does the growth start?
It starts in the ascending colon itself,
In CT, where does it start?
starting from the cecum, sir. Cecum ascending IC junction.
No.
It starts
I
from
am
the
saying
CT.
start
And there is a
colonos.
sir. This
The extent of operation, when I say where does the growth start, is this proximal extent involvement or distal extent is more important? Which will decide the extent of surgery?
sir, the distal extent
So what is the distal extent of this lesion?
mid transverse colons. Sorry, mid ascending colons.
I thought somewhere it was mentioned hepatic flexure. No.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Sorry. So suppose it was mentioned that it starts at hepatic flexure.
So it will be extended right. I plan extended.
Yeah. So the message I was trying to give you is that if you do not have a diagnosis, tissue diagnosis, either of tuberculosis or malignancy, in most cases, you will treat it as malignancy. Because if you treat it as ileocecal tuberculosis and it turns out to be malignancy, then your treatment is not complete. But the reverse is only a slight overkill, which doesn't make much difference in terms of morbidity. So unless you are absolutely sure that it is tuberculosis, in most cases, you will do surgery as malignancy. And we have to remember that in some cases, even at operation and sometimes even in the specimen, it will be impossible to differentiate between the two.
Yes.
And what kind of colonic resection is accepted nowadays? Is it a segmental colectomy or based on the anatomy and the lymphatic drainage?
So it is based on the lymphatic drainage, sir.
What is the term used? What is Dr. Desai wanting to ask you to say?
So it's a radical right hemicolectomy.
A new concept in colonic resections for malignancy, like in rectum?
Something to do with the
Total
mesocolic excision, sir.
Yes. See, you should read into the mind of the examiner also. You have already said hemicolectomy. Still, he is asking you. So that means he is wanting to know something more than that. You have already said hemicolectomy.
Yes.
Exam is a psychological warfare. You have to read into the mind of the examiner also. What is the intent? What is the purpose of asking that question?
Yes.
Any other faculty member who is present online would like to make any comment? Dr. Angeline, you are there. Would you like to say something? Dr. Angeline is a professor and head of the Department of Surgery at Pondicherry Institute of Medical Sciences.
So, good morning, Kapil sir. No, sir, I have no question. Thank you, sir.
Any comments, any tips for the students you would like to make?
No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Avinash? Any other faculty member who's there? Kulbhushan, you want to say something?
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Any tips for the students?
Sir, I have a comment, sir. Before go to surgery, I think we should see the blood investigation, status of the nutrition, whatever HB and what about albumin, sir.
Yeah, I think he did mention that 2 sets of investigations, and I said that she's fit for surgery. So I think he did
Okay.
that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So can we close?
One important message,
Yes.
sir, in a right colonic tumor, when there is a lump in the right malignancy, when you are describing examination, it's pertinent to talk about the right renal fossa.
Very right.
important.
Very right. Very right.
See, I was observing, so as we grow as a medical student, then you go to PG, then you go to post PG. But the basic remains the same. So if you are not talking about that, it means you have no idea that what type of problems this patient is going to have it. And as we discussed that, you know the examinations, and we are talking about your first diagnosis, your examination also should be back up in the back of your mind. And then only you can first diagnosis you make, and you try to give your first diagnosis as we discussed in the beginning. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So students, again, you can send me a mail, vkkapoor.india@gmail.com. Just write RIF, right iliac fossa, in the subject. So I will send you the chapter related to the right iliac fossa lump. Okay. I think we will close. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.